Been thinking to myself a lot lately about what it means to be an American. Is being an American being born in a specific place? Because citizenship standards will tell you that's not true. Um, the forefathers were immigrants, so most of them, not all of them. George Washington was born here, but many of the others weren't. So, and they didn't originate from here. I mean, what does that really mean? Being a citizen of a place is something I think you choose to do, and there's a process to it, sure. But to say that one person is more than the other, like my ancestors are native, part of them, and the other part came from Europe. I have Native American blood, I have African blood, I have European blood. That makes up who I am. But my identity, I'm an American. I'm born in New York. I was raised in the Bronx and then here in Miami. So my experiences are different. Everybody has different experiences. But what does it mean to be an American? That's a complicated question. And I think that telling somebody else that they're not, when they choose to be that, when they've identified as that and made the steps to become that, is a complicated question. So I'm starting to reevaluate how people look at that, and somebody else can say this person's not good or that person's not American. It's like, if you've been at the top of the food chain for so long and you can't see, you say that you don't see color, well, then maybe that's the problem. Maybe you don't really understand what racism is. You think you're not racist because you don't understand what it is. And that's worse. There are people out there who know they're racist, they know who they are, and that's who got you. But there are a lot of people who have no idea what systemic racism is. There are a lot of people who don't understand what that means. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you have biases. That means you can't understand or empathize with what somebody else is dealing with. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a situation in this country where you have a bunch of people who are following what someone says and not looking at what they do. That is the difference. You look at somebody who serves in the military and you say, we honor these people who serve in the military, but then you have somebody who is the person in charge of those people and refuses 5 times to do that same service during a time of war. That speaks for itself. There is a difference between service, servant leadership, and a boss mentality. Think about that. You have to look at where the word boss comes from. And it's a deep subject. There's a lot of concepts. We're sitting here and a lot of people are saying that one side is bashing America and that the other side is for America. And I don't think people really understand that saying America is great doesn't make it great. Do I believe that this country is great? Yes. Do I think that this country has always been great? In a certain way, yes. We're supposed to get better. To say that the country was good a couple years ago and we should leave it that way, if we would have said that, we never would have gotten better. We have to get better. Yes, this country's flawed. Yes, we have problems. Yes, there are things in our history that are awful. There are things that are happening now that are awful. But pretending that they're not happening doesn't make them better. We have to actually recognize how to change them. We have to have plans to change them. And sometimes those plans don't happen the way that we want to. Sometimes those things, we make mistakes, but we learn from those mistakes. You admit the mistake, learn from it. Any person who knows business or an entrepreneur will tell you the same thing. It's not a straight line to success. You're going to hit bumps and bruises like an EKG, up and down and up and down, not a straight line. It's not going to happen. So the reality is there's going to be mistakes. Evolution. Mistakes is what defines evolution. A mistake is what causes growth, change. So to sit here and say that just staying the same is going to work, it's not. Now, that doesn't mean everything needs to change, and it definitely doesn't mean things need to change rapidly, because that's also dangerous. But we have a system in place for that. So the system in place is designed so that change happens incrementally, and we have a discussion. The main thing that everybody should be taking away here is that one side had people from both sides speak, and the other side didn't even have the one living president that is affiliated with their party speak. I mean, that should pretty much say everything right there. There are a lot of people who are backing a person, a cult of personality, rather than America. A person, a party, should never come before the country. the needs of the many outweighing the needs of you. And I mean, we're all entitled to our opinion. People are gonna like hear this and say, "Oh, you can't say that." I mean, I can, and you can say what you want, but ultimately, history will decide who's right, who's wrong, and the history books will be written. They've been written one way for a very long time, and I just don't see that happening anymore. 2020 opened a lot of doors, a lot of eyes, and you might want to rethink your position on history if you're standing against certain things. Change is coming. Change is inevitable. If you cannot adapt to change, you will not survive. That's evolution. Maybe you don't believe in evolution. Maybe there's a reason why you don't believe in evolution. There's nothing to say that evolution conflicts with any specific faith. Like there's nothing to say that. I am a person of faith, and we don't have to get into those things. But I think that if you think your faith follows a person more than the tenets of that faith, you might want to rethink your position on that. You might have been skewed by the influence that person has. And where did that influence come? Did it come from... I totally hit the damn camera. Did that influence come from your social network? Did that influence come from the people that you participate in? Right now, we're all grasping for those connections because of everything that's going on. Those connections were almost severed, or some of them were severed. And so now we're looking for those connections, and now we're really latching on to them. And we have to recognize that if that connection comes at the cost of your own integrity and morality, was that connection worth it? And aren't you a better friend by telling someone when you think that they might be wrong? And not in an argumentative way, in a way that starts a conversation. Like, if my friends know that I care about them because I will tell them the truth when I don't agree with what they're saying, in a respectful way. And sometimes we might not agree afterwards, but then that is what it is. It's not about changing someone's opinion. It's about having a conversation, being able to recognize that we might disagree, and compromising. We've lost compromise. One side wants to, the other one doesn't. So, warmongering and fear-mongering, is that the world you want? Everybody keeps saying how the world's going to be such a bad place under one leader, but the world is a very bad place. This world, the United States right now, is in a bad place because of what we've had. We gave it a shot. We did. It didn't work. So we either keep going down the path we're going, or we try something different. I know what I'm going to do. Maybe you need to reevaluate what you're going to do. That's up to you. That's a private thing. I think that we need to start talking again. We need to talk to each other respectfully again. That's just how I feel, and I'm gonna be talking more. I can't sit down and just let everything play out anymore. Bad things, evil, is allowed to persist when good people do nothing. And I've done nothing for too long, you know. And when I say nothing, you know, I served in the military. I did, you know, I've done my best to give back in certain ways, but I don't think I've been as vocal on, you know, certain issues, especially like, I guess, you know, they label it as social justice, but I guess it's a bad word. But social justice issues, and it's time that stops. It happens every day. I've ignored it because I said, you know what, it's happened to me. I've been, you know, discriminated against. I've had people treat me a certain way because they find out, you know, what my last name is or where my family comes from. Puerto Rican, by the way. And it's difficult, but I've always brushed it off and said I'll rise above that. Not everyone can do that. No one should have to. You know? And it's time that we recognize that. It's time that everybody stood up against the injustices and said, no, we don't need to burn places down. We don't need to destroy things, but we need to do what's right. We need to stand up and say when that's wrong, or kneel down when you feel you have to. That's your right. That's what this country is about. And it's unfair for one person to say that it's acceptable to protest this way, or it's acceptable to have freedom of speech when it's applicable to their specific agenda. If you feel something's wrong, say something. You see something, say something. And we need to do things the right way. It's true. But we need to determine how to do that, especially when for so long no one's listened. So that's just my 2 cents. Maybe it's 15 cents. I don't know. It took 10 minutes to record this. So I hope that made a difference to somebody. It certainly feels better to say it out loud. And believe it or not, I'm not dressed like this because I'm of anything. I was actually recording a video that I was submitting, and it just had a military theme. So I happened to be in the mood to speak, and I figured it works. I don't know. I kind of dig it. Anyway, I don't know what else to say. Things are getting rough, and I hope that you take care of yourself, and I wish everyone a better tomorrow, not just one side or the other, everybody. I hope that we can start coming to the table together and talking. I hope that we start coming together more. I know that's probably not going to happen until after November, whatever happens. But I hope that after that we can. Whoever wins, we need to come together. Because if we keep going the way that we're going right now, there is going to be no us. You know? Anyway, take care, and God bless.